Story about lipstick on a collar, not about late-night phone calls, not even about secret hotel rooms. This is about something smaller, quieter, more ordinary, but somehow infinitely more painful. My name is Julia. I've been married for 8 years. I pack my husband's lunch every morning. It's something I love doing. He doesn't ask for it. He never did. But I do it anyway. Because I love him. Because he works hard. Because food is how I say, I'm here. Some wives write notes. I make chicken curry from scratch. Some give kisses at the door. I slice fruit into perfect cubes and tuck a napkin next to his fork. He always brings the box home empty. Says it was delicious. Says I'm the best cook in the world. And for years I believed him. Until the day the dishwasher told me otherwise. This isn't a story about catching a man cheating. It's about realizing he was never really grateful for what I gave, because someone else was already giving him more. This is the lunchbox that told the truth. The first time I saw it, it was just sitting there. A pale pink glass container, neatly washed, dried, tucked next to our own Tupperware in the dishwasher. I blinked, frowned, picked it up like it might explain itself. It wasn't ours. We'd never bought pink glass. We always used white lids, always. But I told myself maybe he borrowed it. Maybe someone at work shared lunch. It happens, right? The next week, it was back. Same color, same size, same spotless clean. And that time, I felt it. That twinge. That strange, quiet feeling in your chest when something small starts to feel very wrong. So I watched. Subtly. Like wives do when we're not ready to admit we're watching at all. Every Friday, that pink container would reappear, like clockwork. And then, one day, I checked his work bag. My lunchbox was still there, the one I made that morning, untouched, still sealed. But beside it, the pink container, warm, wrapped in a different towel, one I'd never seen before. I didn't say anything that night. I just watched him eat dinner. Tell me how amazing the lunch was. How he devoured every bite. How I should open a restaurant. And I smiled. Because I finally understood something. He wasn't just lying to me. He was rehearsing his lines. He came home with an empty container every day. But it wasn't mine. He left mine in his bag and ate someone else's food, while feeding me words he thought I wanted to hear. This wasn't about cheating. It was about performance. And I was the audience, watching a man act like a husband, while someone else was already feeding the role he played so well. Reddit. What do you do when your love is cooked, packed, sealed with care, but it never even made it to his mouth? When your affection gets returned untouched, while someone else's gets devoured in secret? He didn't kiss someone else. He didn't check into a hotel. He didn't get caught in a lie. But he let the woman who loved him most pack a lunch every morning, knowing it would come back untouched. And that hurts in a different way. Because some betrayals aren't loud. They don't arrive with lipstick or perfume. They come home quietly, in a washed container that isn't yours. They sit at your dinner table, look you in the eye, and thank you for a meal they never ate. This wasn't about infidelity. It was about replacement, not just of love, but of effort, of care, of time. He let someone else feed him, not because Julia stopped loving him, but because someone else made it easier to consume. And that's what we don't talk about enough. How many people stay in relationships not because they're fulfilled, but because they're full of attention, full of convenience, full of emotional labor that they no longer value but don't want to give up. So now I ask you, Have you ever kept giving love to someone who no longer even noticed how much you were giving? Have you ever watched your care go untouched while someone else's was being quietly devoured? And when they said thank you, did it feel like gratitude or guilt in disguise? Because sometimes the deepest betrayal isn't when they choose someone else. It's when they let you keep trying, knowing they already have. When Julia's story was shared, Reddit didn't explode in rage. It sighed. Because so many people have been loved conveniently, but not truthfully. Comment number 1. You left inevitable plus 41.6 thousand upvotes. I packed his lunch every day for 5 years. Same napkin, same note. Then one day, I found all the notes stuffed inside the glove box, unread. He hadn't even opened the bag. Sometimes they don't throw your love away. They just never bother to unwrap it. Comment number 2. You/second meal plus 36.3 thousand upvotes. She told me she was too busy to eat. I believed her. Until I saw her DoorDash history, meals for 2 every afternoon, delivered to a different address. Betrayal doesn't always come from what they say. It comes from what they silently choose instead. Comment number 3. You unopened Lunchbox plus 32.9 thousand upvotes. He once posted my lunch on Instagram. Said, I'm the luckiest guy. I found it in the trash later that day. Still full. Untouched. They don't always lie to you. Sometimes they lie to the world and let you believe it too. Comment number 4. You/still serving plus 30.4k upvotes. I knew something was wrong when he started asking for smaller portions. Turns out he was saving space for someone else's cooking. They'll shrink your space so someone else can feed their hunger. Comment number 5. You/food isn't love plus 28.1k upvotes. I asked him what he wanted for lunch tomorrow. He said, surprise me. Funny. Turns out, I wasn't the only one surprising him. When someone says, whatever you want, check if they already have someone else who gives them exactly that. So now I ask you, have you ever poured love into meals, notes, care, effort, only to realize they weren't hungry for you anymore? Have you ever been thanked by someone who only appreciated your presence when it made them feel less guilty about already choosing someone else? And when you opened their bag, did you find space for your love? Or leftovers they forgot to throw away? He broke up with me because he was dying. This isn't a story about cheating. It's not about losing interest. It's not about someone falling out of love. It's about something quieter, something deeper. The kind of heartbreak that doesn't come from betrayal, but from love that had nowhere left to go. Lily was in love. The kind of love that doesn't need grand gestures, just quiet mornings, shared playlists, and the way he looked at her like she was something fragile and rare. Noah was gentle, not with flowers or speeches, but with silence, with stillness, with the way he remembered the little things most people never noticed. He didn't yell. He didn't disappear. He didn't give her a warning. He just said, I'm sorry. I can't give you what you deserve. And walked away. This isn't a story about the one who broke her heart. It's a story about the one who tried to protect it by leaving. This is the goodbye that wasn't about me. We met at a bookstore. Of course we did. I was buying poetry. He was browsing old maps. He asked me if I believed people could fall in love with someone's mind before they ever touched their hand. I said no. He smiled, like he did. We weren't dramatic. We didn't fight over text or ghost each other for attention. We just fit. He remembered the way I like my tea. He always carried tissues because I cried in movies. He once stood outside in the rain just to hear what my laugh sounded like through thunder. Noah wasn't loud, but his love was clear. And maybe that's what made the silence hurt so much more when it finally came. It was a Sunday. We were supposed to see my parents. He brought flowers for my mom. But before we left the apartment, he sat me down, looked me in the eye, and said, "I love you, but I can't stay. You deserve someone who can plan the future. I can't give you that anymore." I asked why. He just shook his head, held my hand, and whispered, "I'm sorry." He didn't cry. I did. He didn't fight. He just left. For weeks, I tried to find reasons. Did I do something wrong? Was it someone else? Was he afraid of commitment? I ran every possibility in my head, like a broken tape loop. Then one day, I saw his sister at a grocery store. We hadn't spoken since the breakup. She hugged me, longer than I expected. Her voice shook when she said, "He never stopped loving you, but he didn't want you to see what was happening to him." That's when I found out. Noah had been diagnosed with a degenerative condition. Terminal. He knew he'd lose parts of himself. Slowly. He couldn't bear the thought of me watching that happen. So he left. Not because he didn't love me, but because he loved me too much to let me stay through the unraveling. Reddit? What do you do when the person who broke you did it only because they were already breaking themselves? Most heartbreaks begin with a question. What did I do wrong? But Lily's pain didn't come from betrayal. It came from not knowing. From being left with silence that only made sense after the final chapter had already closed. Noah didn't fall out of love. He didn't cheat. He didn't walk away because he wanted to. He walked away because he was running out of time and didn't want to take Lily with him. Let's talk about that kind of heartbreak. The kind that doesn't scream. The kind that holds your hand one last time and lets go not out of anger, but out of love that's become too heavy to carry. Because here's the truth. Sometimes the most painful goodbye is the one that protects you. It doesn't make it hurt less, but it makes it harder to hate. Noah didn't lie. He didn't make excuses. He left with dignity and a secret he chose to carry alone. That's not cowardice. That's quiet courage. We often say, love is staying through everything. Through sickness, through pain, through decline. But what if love is also knowing when to step back so the person you love can remember you at your best? Not watch you fade? So now I ask you, have you ever been left by someone who didn't stop loving you, but couldn't bear to be the reason you watched them fall apart? Have you ever felt a goodbye that didn't feel fair? But deep down, you knew it wasn't meant to hurt you. It was meant to spare you? And if the person who walked away was only trying to protect you from their storm, can you still call it abandonment? Or is that a different kind of love altogether? Because some people don't leave to be free. They leave so that you can be. When Lily shared her story, Reddit didn't explode in anger. It sank. Because heartbreak isn't always cruel. Sometimes, it's the softest kind of love letting go. Comment number 1. U/held but left plus 39.4K upvotes. My ex broke up with me 2 weeks after our anniversary. Said he needed space. 6 months later, I found out he passed away from leukemia. He spent his last year pretending to be healthy because he didn't want me to grieve before it was over. Some people carry their pain in silence just so you don't have to carry it with them. Comment number 2. U/goodbye for her plus 34.7 thousand upvotes. I left the love of my life. Not because I stopped loving her, but because I was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. I wanted her to remember me laughing, not forgetting her name. Sometimes the greatest act of love is knowing when your presence will hurt more than your absence. Comment number 3. I understand now, plus 31.9 thousand upvotes. I hated him for leaving, for walking out without explanation. I hated him for years, until I found the letter he left, hidden in my old books. He had cancer. He said goodbye without saying it out loud, because I couldn't stand the thought of watching you prepare to lose me. Some goodbyes aren't cold. They're careful. They're crafted not to break you all at once, but to delay the fall. Comment number 4. Last hug plus 28.5K upvotes. He hugged me a little tighter the night before he left. Said, "You'll understand one day." And now I do. Stage 4 came fast. His silence wasn't distance. It was love, translated into protection. Some people don't want you to carry their ending. They want you to keep your beginning. Untouched. Comment number 5. Note abandonment plus 26.1 thousand upvotes. I used to think he abandoned me, but now I know. He was just trying to preserve my memory of him before he no longer recognized himself. They didn't leave you because they didn't love you. They left. So your last memory wouldn't be of them falling apart. So now I ask you, have you ever been left without explanation, only to realize later that their silence was love wrapped in sorrow? Have you ever thought someone disappeared, when really they just didn't want you to watch them disappear? And when the truth finally came, did it feel like closure or a second kind of heartbreak? She found all my love letters after marrying someone else. This isn't a story about unrequited love. It's not about being friend-zoned, and it's not about someone choosing someone else. It's about the kind of love that never made it past the edge of your throat, the kind you carry quietly, through birthdays, weddings, good news, and heartbreaks, without ever saying it out loud. My name is Evan, and I've been in love with Mia for more than 10 years. She was never mine, but she was always there, the kind of person who lights up a room and never notices that someone has been staring at her from the doorway for a decade. Every time I wanted to tell her, I couldn't. So I wrote letters, dozens, for every hug that lasted too long, for every time she cried on my shoulder, for every time she smiled, and I thought, I wish this moment was ours. But I never gave them to her. I just kept them in a box, labeled Moments I Never Said. She got married last month, to someone else, and 2 weeks later, she found the box. This isn't a story about losing love. It's about never giving it a chance to begin. This is, she found all my letters. After the wedding. I met Mia on the first day of college. She sat next to me in Introduction to Philosophy, took off her shoes under the desk, and offered me half her granola bar like we'd known each other for years. She never stopped doing things like that, making people feel like home. We became best friends, shared playlists, shared secrets, shared silence. And every time something beautiful happened in her life, I was there, but never as the person I wanted to be. When her first boyfriend cheated, she cried into my hoodie for 3 hours. I held her, but never told her that it broke me in places she'd never see. When she passed the bar exam, we celebrated with champagne. She danced barefoot in my living room, laughing and spinning, and I just watched, and wrote another letter that night. Today you were unstoppable, and I loved you more than I knew how to say. I never had the courage, because I was afraid of ruining everything. afraid of the silence if she didn't feel the same. So I told myself it was enough to be close, to be needed. Even if I'd never be chosen, I kept writing. Every moment that mattered, every almost confession, each one folded neatly and placed into a brown box, with her name written in the corner. And then she met Alex, the guy with the camera and the perfect smile. He made her laugh like she used to with me, only louder. She fell in love. I helped plan the proposal. I smiled in the engagement photos. She got married on a Sunday. She looked radiant, and I looked like a man who never asked for anything. So I couldn't complain when I didn't get it. 2 weeks later, I moved out of my apartment. She stopped by to pick up a book she left behind. She found the box. She called me at 11:43 p.m. Evan. I read them all. Her voice was shaking. I didn't know what to say, so she asked, "Why didn't you ever tell me?" And I said the only thing that felt true, "Because you always looked happiest when you were with him. And I never wanted to be the reason you questioned that smile." Read it. What do you do when you finally speak your truth, and it's 3 vows too late? Evan didn't lose Mia because he wasn't good enough. He lost her because he was silent. Not selfish, not careless, just silent. And silence can feel like safety, until it turns into regret. He didn't lie. He didn't interrupt her happiness. He didn't risk the friendship. But he also didn't ask for more. This is the kind of love you don't see in movies, because it doesn't crash. It fades. It fades in the space between almosts. The hugs that lasted too long, the nights he almost said it, the letters he wrote but never mailed. We often talk about heartbreak as something someone does to you, but sometimes it's what you do to yourself by never saying the words that keep burning inside you. Was Evan noble? Maybe. Was he protecting Mia? Possibly. But was he also afraid? Absolutely. Afraid to ruin the friendship. Afraid to be rejected. Afraid that "I love you" might sound like a burden. But here's the truth. Telling someone you love them might change everything. But never telling them changes you. It changes how you look back. It rewrites the timeline. It makes every shared moment feel like something borrowed instead of something lived. So now I ask you, have you ever loved someone in silence just to keep them in your life? Have you ever written the words down because you couldn't trust your voice to say them out loud? And when the moment passed, did you feel relief? Or the quiet, permanent kind of grief that doesn't scream, it just stays? Because the saddest kind of heartbreak isn't when they say no. It's when you never gave them the chance to say yes. When Evan's story hit Reddit, it didn't just get upvotes. It got silence, then comments that felt like confessions. Because so many people know exactly what it feels like to write something you'll never send, to love someone you'll never tell, and to lose without ever playing the game. Comment number 1. You/never mailed it, plus 43.2 thousand upvotes. I wrote 82 drafts of a message to her. Never sent a single one. She got married last year. I still keep the messages in my notes app. Unread. Unsent. Unlived. MC reflects. Some stories don't get an ending, because the beginning never had the courage to start. Comment number 2. You/Satin the Fog, plus 39.8 KA upvotes. She used to call me her safe space. I thought that meant something. Turns out, I was the waiting room between heartbreak and her actual love story. MC adds, sometimes you're not the chapter. You're the pause between 2 pages someone else gets to write. Comment number 3. You/the Quiet One, Always plus 35.5 thousand upvotes. He married someone else, but the letter I wrote him 5 years ago still lives in my drawer. I reread it every year on his anniversary. It hurts, but it's mine. MC softly. Not all love stories end in union. Some end in memory and stay there, untouched, forever. Comment number 4. U2 Safe Form plus 32.1 thousand upvotes. He once told me, "You feel like home." I smiled. But what he meant was, "You're safe." So I'll leave you right here while I go fall in love somewhere else. MC whispers, being someone's comfort isn't always the same as being their choice. Comment number 5. U/unsent and gone plus 30.6 kawaii upvotes. The worst part isn't losing them. It's knowing they never even knew what they meant to you. MC ends quietly. And now they wear someone else's ring, never knowing you were ready to give them your whole heart. If only you'd spoken. So now I ask you, have you ever loved someone quietly, so deeply it ached, but never told them, because silence felt safer than change? Have you ever stood in the back of a wedding, smiling, while your chest held every "what if" you never said out loud? And when they finally found your truth, was it too late? Or exactly the moment they needed to hear it, even if nothing could change? I thought he was cheating, but the truth was even worse. This isn't a story about cheating. At least, that's what I thought it was. It started with a receipt, a single piece of paper, crumpled, tucked deep in his coat pocket. Hotel name, 2:13 a.m. A room booked for just one night. We weren't on a trip. It wasn't our anniversary. It wasn't even a bad day. He said he was working late. My name is Harper. I'm 28. I've been with Daniel for 5 years. We live together, share bills, feed a cat named Jonah. We're that couple everyone thinks has it all figured out. Until I found that receipt. And suddenly, every working late sounded like a lie. Every time he turned his phone over at dinner, felt like a performance. I didn't want to believe it, so I didn't confront him. I waited, watched, smiled, and followed him the next time he worked late. What I found wasn't a woman, wasn't perfume, wasn't a second phone or a secret affair. It was something worse, more complicated, more human. This is a story about the secrets we keep, not to hurt the people we love, but to protect them. This is, I thought he was cheating, until I found out the truth was worse. I didn't say anything the first night I found the receipt. I watched him sleep, wondered if I'd missed the signs. If 5 years could really be built on lies, I never noticed. The next week, he worked late again. So I checked his phone. Nothing. His texts were ordinary. No baby, no hearts, no calls he deleted. But the anxiety didn't fade. It just got sharper. I started watching him the way you watch a stranger, hoping to see something that proves you right or wrong. The next Thursday, he said he had an urgent meeting. He put on cologne, left early,